So here we are taking the Unit 4 test review. And as with any test, make sure you read the directions first. It says to find each sum or difference. And the reason why I'm making such a big deal about making sure you read the directions is, what was one of the last things that we did in this unit? It was foiling, wasn't it? Well, when you see a binomial and a binomial, the first thing you might think of, because it's fresher in your mind, is foiling. And is that what this is? No, this is plus. We're adding these two binomials together. Whereas before, with foiling, you're multiplying two binomials. But here we're just adding, which means you just add the like terms. 4x squared plus 9x squared is 13x squared. Negative 6 plus 3, negative 3, final answer. Now, when you're subtracting a parentheses, change the minus sign to a plus sign. Change the signs of everything in the parentheses after that. It's a 7 in the parentheses. Make it a negative 7. Make the minus 6x to the third a plus 6x to the third. And from here, what you're going to want to do is, again, now we are adding, add your like terms, combine like terms. You're going to have 5x to the third plus 6x to the third is 11x to the third. You have positive 9 minus 7, positive 2, final answer. And number 3, again, you're adding. So all we need to do is go through here and combine your like terms. Now, find the highest exponent. That would be, listen, now we have a 10x to the 7th. Any other x to the 7th? Yeah, we have plus 4. So add those together. You're going to add their coefficients. Negative 10 plus 4, negative 6, x to the 7th. Always start with your highest exponent first, and then descending powers from there. What's the next highest exponent? Well, we don't have any x to the 6th, but we do have a plus, because it's a positive 9x to the 5th, plus 9x to the 5th. Then we don't have any x to the 4th, so I don't have x to the thirds, don't even have any x squareds. I do have a negative 5x plus 14x, and so negative 5 plus 4 plus 9x. And the only thing we have left is plus 19. There's your final answer. Again, we have subtraction here, so change that to a plus sign, and then change the signs of the terms inside the parentheses. So that makes it a positive 12n squared and a plus 4n to the thirds. Now go through and combine your like terms. Again, you're going to start with the highest exponent first. We have n to the thirds. Well, negative 11 plus 4, negative 7 n to the third. So yeah, do we have any n squareds? Yeah, 17. Now it's plus 12 is positive 29 into the second. And then the only thing we have left is the minus 5n, and there's your final answer. So now number 5, we have it's now 3 different polynomials here. This one's already addition, so we don't change anything with the second parentheses, but this last parentheses we do. We're going to make that a plus sign, and then change the signs of all the things inside. So it's a negative 2x to the 4th, z to the 4th, and a negative 13x to the 5th, z to the 4th. It's going to be hard to really come up with descending powers here. It's supposed to be descending powers of x. So what's the highest exponent for x you see here? Will be x to the 5th. Now, all right, so we're just going to do negative 9x to the 5th, z to the 4th. Let's see now. Here's another x to the 5th, z to the 4th. So that's negative 9 minus 7 is negative 16. And then here's another one. Negative 16 minus 13 is negative 29. So negative 29, x to the 5th, z to the 4th. All right, that takes care of those guys. And then I would go through and underline twice. Let's now, any x to the 4th. So we have x to the 5th. We ignore the z's. In determining what comes first, we go with the highest exponent for x. Then the next highest exponent for x, we would have 7x to the 4th, z to the 4th, and then minus 2x to the 4th, z to the 4th. Those are like terms, so I can take 7 minus 2 and get positive 5, x to the 4th, z to the 4th. And then we have these terms. Now look at this. We have z to the third. Here's a like term to it. They're both z to the thirds. I have one of them here plus 5 of them here is plus 6 z to the third. And that would be your final answer. And being that this is a multiple choice test, this is how the answer would be written on your answer sheet, more than likely. And that's descending powers. Now your practice test might be looking a little bit different than this, but it is the exact same problem. You're talking about the perimeter of a triangle. And the perimeter of a triangle is 5x minus 19. And if you'll go back and look at your notes, we had a problem very similar to this in which we took the polynomials, the perimeter for that polynomial, 5x minus 19, and then we needed to subtract these two things added together. So it's 3x. I'm going to add those two sides together. And then I'm going to subtract it from the perimeter. To find this missing side, isn't that what we would do? Add these two things together here, and then subtract it from the perimeter. Well, that's exactly what I'm setting up here. So I'm going to have 5x minus 19, and then minus. And then let's get everything together here. Let's simplify that. 3x plus x is 4x, and then negative 10 minus 11 is negative 21. And now I have this polynomial minus this one. And how do we subtract a polynomial? Well, we're going to change that to a plus sign. And then what changes in the second parentheses? That'll become a negative 4x, and that'll become a plus 21. And now all we need to do is just go through and combine like terms. I have 5x minus 4x is 1x. Negative 19 plus 21 is plus 2. Final answer. Now in number 7, again, now we're into multiplying. So is number 7 FOIL? No. 7 is not FOIL. Foiling would be when you have a binomial times a binomial. This is just simply a monomial times a monomial. Listen, if the x's weren't in here, x to the third, x to the sixth, take those guys out. What would you do with the 4 and the negative 7? Well, I would hope you'd multiply them and get negative 28. So let's put those x's back in there now. What is x to the third times x to the sixth? X to the ninth. We're going to add those exponents. Now, in number 8, I'm taking this parentheses and raising it to the third power. Now, if the y to the fourth weren't there, what would you have here? You'd have negative 3 to the third power, right? Well, having that y to the fourth doesn't change that fact. You still have negative 3 to the third power, which is what? Plug it into your calculators if you'll need to, and it's negative 27. Now, what do we do with these two exponents? We multiply those and get negative 27 y to the 12th. In number 9, take care, again, there's no exponents outside the parentheses here, nothing that we have to clear the parentheses for, other than just multiplying this times this. It's a monomial times a monomial. Multiply the two coefficients. What's 2/5 of 10? Well, that would be 4. If you need to, plug it into your calculators. Hopefully you wouldn't have to do that. And then from there, multiply your variables, alphabetical order, x to the 4th times x to the 11th. What are you going to do with the exponents? Would that be x to the 44th? Well, if it's a multiple choice question, I would guarantee you that x to the 44th would be one of the possibilities. You don't want to multiply those. You add the 4 and the 11, get x to the 15th. You add the 7 and the 5 and get y to the 12th. What do you do with these two exponents? These you're going to multiply. 2 to the 56th power. Your multiple choice test would not have that written out. That would be such a huge number. It'd be impossible. Well, not impossible. You wouldn't want to write 2 to the 56th out. So just leave it in exponential form. All right, number 11. Is this one FOIL? No. Again, FOIL is a binomial times a binomial. This is a monomial raised to an exponent, a monomial raised to the exponent. We need to clear the parentheses here. This parentheses is being raised to the third power. I'm going to ignore that for just a second. We're not worried about that one just yet. Let's clear the parentheses with this first trinomial, this first monomial first. All right, now, if the x squared and the y were not there, wouldn't we have negative 2 to the third power? Well, what is that? Well, it's negative 8. X squared to the third, what do we do with these two exponents? We're going to multiply them. X to the sixth. This is actually y to the first. Take 1 times 3 is 3, you get y to the third power. That's the first parentheses. In the second parentheses, you're going to have 3 squared, which is 9. X to the third squared, multiply those two exponents, you get x to the sixth, y squared. Now you're going to you don't add these together. What's the operation when you have a parentheses next to a parentheses? That's right, it's multiplication. So you're going to be taking negative 8 times 9, multiply the two coefficients, negative 72. Add the exponents of like bases, x to the 12th, and we'll get y to the 5th. In number 12, if there is a fraction bar in your problem, start with a fraction bar in your answer. Now, we don't have any negative exponents to worry about, but what we are going to do is we're going to simplify the fractions. We don't take 147 minus 3. We subtract exponents. If these variables weren't here, wouldn't this be 147 divided by 3? Well, it doesn't change. It's still 147 divided by 3, 49. We have x to the, now we go through and do everything alphabetically. Now you have x to the 9th in the numerator, x to the 14th in the denominator. You always take the higher exponent minus the smaller one. 14 minus 9 is 5. So we're going to have an x to the 5th, but where does it go? Well, it's going to go in the denominator because that's where the larger set were. And we have y to the 7th over y to the 3rd. 7 minus 3 is 4. We have y to the 4th in the numerator. In number 13, we're going to need to clear the parentheses first. We don't have, I misspoke there. We're going to want to simplify what's inside the parentheses first before we clear the parentheses. Look at what's inside. If that 3 were not there, what would you do with what's inside the parentheses? Well, you have a negative 5 and a 7. The x squared over x would be an x in the numerator. Look what happens with the y's. They cancel. Now we put the exponent back in, 3. Well, negative 5 to the third power, negative 125, x to the third. 7 times 7 is 49, times 7 is 343. 7 to the third power is 343. So negative 125 x to the third over 343. Number 14. Remember what I was saying about fraction bars? If there's a fraction bar in your problem, start with one in your answer because you're going to end up with stuff in the numerator. You're going to end up with stuff in the denominator. Move things so we have positive exponents. Negative 6. You don't move that because the exponent for it is positive 1. The negative 6 stays there. Alphabetical order, one thing at a time. X to the negative 5 in the numerator becomes x to the positive 5. X to the negative 3 in the denominator becomes x to the positive 3. Y to the negative 2 in the numerator becomes y squared in the denominator. We're not done. Since we have a fraction bar here, start with a fraction bar. Here's your answer. Coefficients first, nothing happens with the negative 6. With x to the third and x to the 5th, we take 5 minus 3, we get 2, so we're going to have an x squared, and that goes in the denominator. Y squared goes in the denominator. What goes in the numerator? That's right, a 1. Number 15. Clear the parentheses first. 4 to the third power, 64. X to the negative 2 times 3, so we're going to have x to the negative 6. We're multiplying the exponents here. Y to the third, multiply the exponents, y to the ninth. Bring the denominator over exactly as it is. We're not moving anything. All I did there was clear the parentheses here. Negative 5x to the negative 3, y to the negative 9. If there's a fraction bar in your problem, there will be a fraction bar in your answer. Now, do not think, and you had this on your quiz here a while back, just a few days ago, y to the ninth over y to the negative ninth does not cancel out. Do not do that. First thing I want you to do is change everything so that it has a positive exponent. Start with a fraction bar. You must go through this and do your coefficients first. All right, I'm a little bit OCD about this, but negative signs always go into the numerator. So I'm just going to move that up into the numerator, make it negative 64. Only the negative sign moves up. I have a 64 in the numerator and a 5 in the denominator. Alphabetical order. Move one thing at a time. X to the negative 3 becomes x to the positive 3. X to the negative 6 becomes x to the positive 6. We already have the y to the ninth here. Oh, look what happens here. This y to the negative 9, here's the reason why they don't cancel. That guy gets moved up. What do we actually have in the numerator? Right. Check it out. All right, we're going to have negative 64 over 5. That doesn't reduce. X to the third over x to the sixth. 6 minus 3 is 3, so x to the third in the denominator. But what do we have in the numerator? Yeah, y to the 18th. We're going to add those two exponents. Simplify each expression. Here's where we're taking a think about what's happening here. Look at the problem, inspect it. What's going on here? You have a monomial times a trinomial. That means you're going to take this monomial outside times all three of these terms inside. All right, only concentrate on these two right now. Forget these guys over here. Don't cross them out like I just did, but ignore them. You're going to multiply these two things. 4 times 3 is 12. List your variables in alphabetical order, x, y, z. Now I can take 4yz times the negative 4y. Now 4 times negative 4, negative 16. So minus 16. You're going to have y times y is y squared, and then you're going to have a z. Then you're going to take the 4yz times positive 8z, and you get plus 4 times 8, 32. Y, z times z is z squared. Final answer. Here we're going to have to distribute a couple of times. 2/3 times x, well, that would be 2/3 x squared. Then you're going to be taking 2/3 x times negative 6. Now, negative 6 times 2 is be negative 4x. Then, and that's all for the 2/3 x. Then it's 4 times x squared is positive 4x squared. 4 times negative 3x is negative 12x. And 4 times 11, positive 44. Combine like terms now. 2/3 x squared plus 4x squared. Well, you're thinking 4 and 2/3 x squared, right? That's not how it would be written in a polynomial. This needs to be changed to an improper fraction. So the answer would be 14/3 x squared. Now you're going to do the x terms. Negative 4x minus 12x negative 16x, and then you have your plus 44. So you're going to have to know how this is going to be written in a multiple choice test situation. So it's going to be 14/3 x squared. You'll need an improper fraction there. It shouldn't be written as a mixed number. Number 18. 11 times 4x squared, 44x squared. 11 times negative 6x, negative 66x. This is a negative 3x. Circle it. Negative 3x times x squared is negative 3x to the third. This is negative 3x times negative 2x, positive 6x squared. Look what happening. Look at what's happening here, right? Then it's negative 3x times positive 7, negative 21x. Go through and combine like terms. Write them in descending powers. Well, your highest exponent is the x to the third, so negative 3 x to the third. Then the x squareds, 44 plus 6, positive 50, x squared. Negative 66x minus 21x, negative 87x, and that'll be your final answer. In number 19, you're just going to multiply the 5xy squared times the 10x squared. 5 times 10, 50. X times x squared, x to the third, you're going to have a y squared. Then you're going to take the 5xy squared times negative 7xy. See, here's what I'm seeing. I don't know what you're seeing when you look at that. Here's what I see. Inside the parentheses, I see three terms. 10x squared, that's one term. I see a negative 7xy, that's the second term. And then the third term, I see positive 2x to the third, y to the eighth. Because I have this thing in front of the parentheses, I know I'm going to have to take this times each one of these three terms. Write your answer here. That's all we're doing. So, take 5 times negative 7, negative 35. X times x is x squared, and y squared times y is y to the third. Take 5 times 2, positive 10. X times x to the third is x to the fourth, and y squared times y to the eighth is y to the 10th. Final answer. In number 20, solve each equation. Keep track of your equal sign all the way down. Keep track of what is on each side of the equal sign. On the left side, you will have 5x plus 5 plus 3 equals 4 times x is 4x plus 4 times 2 is 8 minus 6. Highly recommended that you write each side now in descending powers, meaning this, combine like terms. You have 5x, 5 and 3 are positive 8, equals 4x, 8 minus 6, positive 2. Now we're going to subtract the 4x from both sides and get x plus 8 is equal to 2. Subtract the 8 from both sides, you get x is equal to negative 6. Final answer. In number 21, 4 times 2x is 8x. Plus 4 minus 8 equals 4x plus 12. 8x, 4 minus 8, negative 4 equals 4x plus 12. Subtract the 4x from both sides, right? Get 4x minus 4 is equal to 12. Add the 4 to both sides and get 4x is equal to 16. Divide both sides by 4. X equals 4. Final answer. Number 22. 2x times 4x. 8x squared. 2x times negative 1. Negative 2x Bring down the minus 4x equals 4x squared minus 15. And that's not going to work. So I'm going to change this. You don't know how to solve that kind of equation. So here's what we need to do. Change this equation. Here we go. We're going to change it to this. 2x times the quantity 4x minus 1 minus 4x equals 2 times the quantity 4x squared minus 15. Let's do that. That's your new equation. Scratch that. You don't know how to solve that kind of equation yet. We'll do that next semester. All right. Now distribute. 2x times 4x, 8x squared, minus 2x minus the 4x equals 2 times 4x squared is 8x squared. 2 times minus 15 is minus 30. And the reason why I had to do that was because when you get your, all right, rewrite the left side in descending powers. I have like terms here. Get those together first. 8x squared minus 6x equals 8x squared minus 30. And if you'll notice, what's going to happen here is that when I subtract the 8x squared here and subtract the 8x squared here, what happens? They cancel out. We need those to cancel out. And you're left with negative 6x equals negative 30 and x equals 5. Sorry about the misprint there. We'll take care of that, though, for the next time. And if you already have it changed, there will become a time when this will already be changed. And if that's the case, then don't worry about it. Write an expression for the area of the rectangle below. Listen now, we need to write an expression for the area. Circle that. How do you find the area of a rectangle? Length times width. So let's take this times this. So you're going to be taking x minus 7 times x squared minus 3x minus 6, which means take the x times all three of these guys. X times x squared is x to the third. X times negative 3x is negative 3x squared. X times negative 6, negative 6x. Then you're going to take negative 7 times all these guys. Negative 7 times x squared is negative 7x squared. Negative 7 times negative 3x is positive 21x. And negative 7 times negative 6, positive 42. Go through and combine all of your like terms, starting with the highest exponent first, x to the third. Negative 3x squared minus 7x squared is negative 10x squared. Negative 6x plus 21x, positive 15x, and bring down the plus 42, final answer. That's the expression for this area of this rectangle. Number 24, what do we have? Yeah, now we have FOIL. This is a binomial times a binomial. And I'm going to take x times x, and the first term times the first term equals the first term. And then what I'm going to do, and this is the way I show it in my class, is that I'm going to take positive 5 times positive 6. Now, you do whatever your teacher has shown you. It's all the same thing, but in this case, I'm going to take 5 times 6 and get positive 30. Then we have the bottom part of FOIL to do. 5 times x is plus 5x, and x times 6 is plus 6x. And these middle terms are going to get combined to 11x. So your final answer will be x squared plus 11x plus 30. Final answer. 6x times 5x, 30x squared. Negative 9 times negative 3, or negative 3 times negative 9, positive 27. I'm going to run out of room here. That's okay. Negative 15x negative 54x. Final answer, the 30x squared. These two get combined, negative 69x plus 27. In number 26, 3x times 5x, 15x squared. 2y times negative 8y, negative 16y squared, right? Now, I'm going to take 2y times 5x. Now, how would you write that? Positive 10, 5 times 2 is 10, alphabetical order, x, y. 3x times negative 8y. 3 times negative 8, negative 24. Again, x, y. The middle terms are going to get combined. 15x squared minus 14xy minus 16y squared. Page 3. 3x times 2x, 6x squared. 2 times negative 3, negative 6. Here's 4x. Here's negative 9x. 4x minus 9x is negative 5x. So I might have done that a little bit differently. That's okay. It all comes out at the end. 6x squared minus 5x minus 6. Whatever you do on number 28, do not square the 4x and get 16x squared, and then square the 5 and get 25. I will tell you right now, that will be marked wrong all day long. What you're going to do here is, since we're squaring a binomial, is you'll need to write it down twice. Now, what kind of problem is this? That's right, it's a FOIL problem. 4x times 4x, 16x squared. 5 times 5, positive 25. I'll have 20x here. I'll have 20x here, plus 40x in the middle. 5x times 5x, 25x squared. Negative 1 times positive 1, negative 1. Here I have negative 5x. Look what happens. Here's plus 5x. They will cancel. 25x squared minus 1. Three x times x, 3x to the third. 3x times 2x plus 6x squared. 3x times 7 plus 21x. Negative 4 times x squared is negative 4x squared. Negative 4 times 2x, negative 8x. And then negative 4 times 7, negative 28. Combined like terms. 3x to the third. 6x squared minus 4x squared, positive 2x squared. 21x minus 8x, positive 13x. And then minus 28, final answer. Okay, this 31 here, a little bit trickier only because I have 3 terms times 3 terms. Well, dive into it. Actually, you know what? Let me show you a little bit different method. Take your 4x squared plus x minus 1. See if this doesn't make sense. You're just going to multiply these like you would any other numbers. I'm going to take this first number, negative 1. I'm going to multiply it times the top row. So negative 1 times negative 2 is positive 2. Negative 1 times 3x is negative 3x. And negative 1 times x squared is negative x squared. Then I'm going to take that same negative 1, or excuse me, the positive x, and I'm going to multiply it times everything in the top row. So x times negative 2 is negative 2x, and I'm going to put it here. My like terms will line up. X times 3x, positive 3x squared. My like terms line up. And then x times x squared is x to the third. Then I'm going to take, well, that didn't work. Then I'm going to take, there we go, 4x squared, and I'm going to multiply it times everything in the top row. Well, 4x squared times negative 2 is negative 8x squared. That's going to line up here. My like terms are lined up, right? Then 4x squared times the 3x, 12x to the third. And look at that, they line up. Then I'm going to take 4x squared times x squared to get 4x to the fourth. And now all I have to do is add my columns. 4x to the fourth, 12x to the third plus 1x to the third is plus 13x to the third. Negative 1 plus 3, 2 minus 8, negative 6x squared. Negative 3x minus 2x, negative 5x plus 2. Well, whatever method you chose to multiply that out, that would be your answer. In number 32, take these three terms in the numerator and divide them all by 3x squared. So take 15x to the third and divide it by 3x squared. Bring down the minus sign. 18x squared y to the fifth and divide it by 3x squared. And then take plus 27 x to the ninth y to the third and divide it by 3x squared. Now all you need to do is just reduce three fractions. 15 divided by 3, 5. X to the third over x squared is x minus 18 over 3, 6. The x squareds cancel, you have y to the fifth, plus 27 divided by 3, 9. X to the ninth over x to the second is x to the seventh, and then y to the third, and you're done. In number 12, we're going to take each of these, 12y squared, and divide it by 6y, and then take the 6y and divide it by 6y. There are two terms here. There will be two terms in your answer. 12 divided by 6 is 2. Y squared over y is y. We just don't cross this out and say it's gone. Any number divided by itself is 1. You need to have that plus 1 there. Same thing in number 34. We're going to take each of these terms in the numerator and divide them by negative 7x y to the third. So take 21 x to the fifth y to the third and divide it by negative 7 x y to the third. Then you're going to have the minus sign and then 14x squared y to the fourth, and you're going to be dividing it by negative 7x y to the third. Reduce each fraction. 21 divided by negative 7, negative 3. X to the fifth over x, x to the fourth, y to the thirds cancel. Now I want you to take a close look at this next situation here. See this minus sign right here? No matter where the minus sign is in this fraction is negative. That negative sign that's circled there could be in the denominator. We could have it in the numerator. We could have it in front of the fraction. Either way you look at it, you have minus a negative. What does minus a negative mean? Plus. 14 divided by 7 is 2. The x's cancel. Sorry, that was an x squared. The x's don't cancel. X squared over x is x, and y to the fourth over y to the third is y. In number 35, 60, x to the seventh, y to the third, you're going to divide that by 30xy, minus 30x to the third, y to the ninth, over 30xy. 60 divided by 30 is 2. X to the 7th over x is x to the 6th. Y to the 3rd over y is y squared. Minus 30 divided by 30 cancels. X to the 3rd over x is x squared. Y to the 9th over y is y to the 8th. Good luck on your test. We'll see you in class.